Hey, this is John Tabler. We're back, and in my last video I showed you how to blow a bubble with wheat that was chewed up until it turned to gum. And you probably haven't seen anybody do that before, but everybody can do that. Well, if you can blow bubble with gum, you can do that if you can chew on it long enough. And of course, don't break a tooth. That would not be good. But the main point of that was to show you that wheat has gluten, and gluten is essentially the gum that it turns into. And we all know from chewing gum when we were little kids, we're not supposed to swallow the gum because it doesn't digest early. It can really, it doesn't digest fast, and it can upset your stomach and cause problems. And a lot of people are having problems with gluten and other parts of the wheat kernel actually too, that defend itself against insects and predators before it's eaten by us. The way we get rid of all those things is to ferment it, which had been done for thousands of years, pretty much from all time. That's the way that grain was supposed to be eaten, and it was fermented, and that's what we're supposed to do. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Fermenting it actually is a process in which it naturally goes into a state of preservation rather than breaking down and getting old or rotting. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. To do that, what we do is start off by getting some flour and then fermenting that small amount of flour into what we call a starter. Now, what a starter is actually like a jump starter for a car. When your battery runs down, you can actually have someone come along that has a fresh battery, hook up to yours, and you don't have to charge it for hours. Boom, it starts right away. So once we make our starter with flour, it may take 3 to 4 days to make that, but from then on, once we add a little bit of that to any dough ball that we have, boom, it's going to do it overnight. It's going to take 8 hours to completely neutralize the gluten and wipe out any defenses that are in there against predators. There are studies about that cause inflammation in the body, and it prepares the grain to be assimilated into our bodies and give us nutrition and keep us young and keep us healthy. You know, bread for thousands and thousands of years had always been a staple of nourishment for humans, and in the last 100 years or so, it's turned into a different product. And really now most people have cut bread out of their diet altogether because they notice it makes them get fat, makes them feel unhealthy, and causes a lot of problems with gluten and other sensitivities that are defined in many different manners, but basically they just don't find it to be good for them, when essentially it was the #1 nourishing product for humans. So we need to get back to that, because it still is. The reason why it has become that is because it hasn't been fermented anymore. People using yeast now, and yeast, baker's yeast really wasn't even invented and isolated until the very late 1800s and the 1900s, and really in the early 1900s, 1930s, it started to be used pretty much exclusively in bread. When I show you what this flour looks like, it's nothing like the color of the top of this. It's not white. It has all the vitamins and all the bran in it. So you can make a big difference in your health in a very short period of time by eating the food that really was meant to go in your body, but it must be fermented first. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And how we do that, I want to make it really simple. It's not going to be complicated. You go get some flour, and we get a glass. Okay, now you can get really fancy and have a jar with a lid, but I'm just going to get a glass. Okay, so then what we do is we get wheat berries. Now you can either get wheat berries and grind them. That's basically like taking fresh vegetables and eating them. Or you ever had a fresh tomato out of a garden with salt and pepper on it? It's nothing quite like coming off of that vine, the taste of that, compared to having one that's been sitting in a grocery store for a long time. You know, they have to pick those early. It's not the same. So it's also, that's a comparison with wheat, the same thing. If you grind that wheat fresh, it's another step above. But you can go to the store and get whole wheat flour, and that will be fine. You can get other kind of flour too. It's going to work too. It's just not going to have the vitamins in there to the same level. So what I do is I use a wheat grinder. Now, with a wheat grinder in a 50-pound bag of wheat, you can eat for a long time as long as your wheat grinder, and as long as you have electricity, as long as your wheat grinder can grind the wheat for you. If the electricity's on, or if you have a hand grinder, you can eat for a long time and be completely nourished. So I'm going to show you what I use right now. I have what's called a Wondermill. It's an electric wheat grinder, and we're going to take the wheat berries, throw some in the top. Now I'm not going to do enough here to actually make a bread dough. I'm just going to demonstrate enough to have a starter. Put a little bit in the top of there. You can see that. Turn this on, and that baby will churn those wheat berries through it and kick the powder out into here, and hopefully the lid won't come up and shoot white all over the place. I've learned that the hard way. You don't want that to happen. That's why my little piece of tape's on here, because sometimes the pressure gets a little strong. So here we go. Now you can hear that's being ground in there, and through this little pipe, it's coming into there in a powder form, and it won't take long at all for that to happen. When you hear that speed up, I shut it off. And once again, I don't want to open that up too quick. I might do it one time for fun, but not today. So once that thing's slowed down enough, I open it up, and you can see that wheat. Now there's a little bit more in there because I had some in the fridge. Wheat, after it's ground, is perishable in flour form. So that's why there's dates on it at the store. So you want to make sure it's fresh, but it will keep for quite a while on the shelf, and so will this. It's just the best form to store wheat in is the wheat berry before it's ground. That's very similar to apples. You know, when you cut into an apple, it starts getting brown right away. Well, it's better to ship that apple around in the apple form. It keeps that juice in there completely fresh without oxidizing it. Once you open that apple up, it starts oxidizing. Well, it's going to be the same with wheat, but not at a very quick rate with it. So I'm going to make this really simple. I don't use scales, none of this weighing stuff. We got to do this easy. Everyone's got to be able to do this. So what we're going to do to make this starter, we're going to take a little bit of flour and put in the jar, about an inch. That was complicated, wasn't it? Okay, so now what we're going to do is we need water, but it cannot have chlorine in it. So we can use spring water or we can use purified water. We don't want any chemicals in this. This is a natural process that is in that cell of the makeup of the structure of this that makes it start fermenting, which is essentially preserving itself. And that's what we're going to do with it. So we got to have spring water or purified water. Put a little water in there, stir it. We are done. That's pretty quick. That's a little thick. It's kind of, you know, a little like putty. You can put just a hair bit more water. It doesn't really matter. It really doesn't. Once you do that, you're done. Wash that spoon. You don't want to leave that there. Somebody's going to get you in trouble. Okay, so once you do that, you put that piece of plastic over it or whatever, it's fine. Essentially, you don't need to do that. You kind of want to keep oxygen from it as much as possible, but it's not going to matter. You got to think, this is the way people ate for all time. They're not getting complicated with this. Everybody's got to eat. Okay, so put that on there, set it aside. Now what's going to happen, in about a day, that's going to start bubbling like magic. That bubbling is like magic. Like you start wondering, it looks like it's on a stove. And what it does, it turns to a substance that is almost like a lemon. It tastes just very close to a lemon and starts bubbling. And that substance itself actually wipes out all the gluten and wipes out all the defenses of that plant against insects and other predators, makes those nutrients assimilable, and that's the way it was supposed to be eaten in the human body. What you need to know about this is once this starter's done, and I'm actually going to get some that I have that has been a few days. I should say first, to get that starter done, when we get tomorrow, we're going to go put a little bit more in there, maybe another inch and a little bit more water, and we're going to stir it. It's like kindling a fire. You add a little bit more, stir it, set it aside a day. Come back, add a little bit more, set it aside a day until it's about that high. Just so you have enough to use, so when you take that and use it later on, you will actually have enough and you won't run out, because you don't always want to start over. And what I mean by that is, once you've fermented that, the amazing thing is that when you make a dough ball, because all I need to do now is put that in a bowl, add some water and make a dough ball. I don't do anything else to it. But when I add a little of that completed starter that's going to be done in a couple, 3 days, to that dough ball, it acts like that jump starter. Somebody gives you a jump with your battery in a car, and in 8 hours it ferments the whole loaf. So once that's fermented, which originally takes about 3 days to have enough and have it strong enough, once it's done, that doesn't go away. You use that into the dough ball, and a little leaven leavens the whole lump quickly, overnight. So you don't have to wait 5 days for it to happen. And that dough ball is going to blow up, and all that gluten is going to be neutralized. All the defenses of that plant that are poisonous and cause inflammation in the human body are going to be wiped out, and it's going to be nourishment to you. And hopefully it'll make you live to be 152 or 53, like I talked about in the last video. But no matter, you're going to be healthy while you're having fun and a good time in your life as it stands now. So what we're going to do next is come back to that tomorrow, and I'm going to add more to it. And what's going to happen, it's going to turn into what this is like. So this will end up getting a little bit of water, thicker water on the front. You can, on the top, you can just pour that out. But that, with that wheat, ground up flour, will take care and make a great loaf of bread. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Now, I use glass. You don't want to do your fermentation in metal. It will leach the metals off. It is a cleanser. It will cleanse your body. It will keep your immunity up. And it is a full spectrum probiotic, which I'll explain in videos to come. But it's the strongest probiotic, the fullest, most, well, full spectrum is the best definition of it. It's much like the sun is to light as compared to a light bulb. The sun is a full spectrum light that gives life. It's the same thing with this with respect to probiotics. So the main thing that we need to do right now is just concentrate on getting a starter made. There's no rush. Once you do that, you can start doing that now. You put that in the fridge. It's going to be there, and it's not going to go away, and you can keep it for however long you want to. You just add a little bit more to it when you use it up, and you keep that. As long as you have that starter made, you can make bread at any time quickly, but you have to have the starter made. Now, once you eat this bread, as I said, that studies have said, the nutrients are 10 times more assimilable, the gluten gets degraded and wiped away, and so do all the defenses. And there's studies to back that up. I'll post those and work on getting that, but I don't want to complicate things too much right now. What I really want to do is make this simple for everyone to have good food, because when you put butter on that and you put honey on that bread and it comes out of the oven, you're going to be like, whoa, it is awesome. The stuff at the grocery store, that's not bread. Trust me. So we're going to do that. If you've learned anything, I want to keep coming, okay, with more and more information. So in that button at the bottom, thumbs up. Now see, everyone says like button. I didn't see a like button. I just see a thumbs up. So give me a thumbs up, and I will appreciate that. Subscribe to my channel, and I'm going to continue to bring really good information. And we're going to go from one thing to another. Eventually, we're going to get to cheese, milk, wine, and many things. But it's going to be in a way with nature's secrets like you've never heard before. So if blowing a bubble with wheat was intriguing, just wait to see what's coming. It's going to be a good time. We're going to have fun, and I'll see you back here soon. Get started on your starter.